Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back to the NeuroVerse podcast. Today we have a reoccurring guest, Miss Saima. Thank you very much for coming on again. So the last time, a couple weeks ago, Miss Saima talked to us about her child who was on the autistic spectrum and kind of her experiences, as he grew up, and up to now. And the reason why I wanted to have her on again was because most research focuses on mainly children for autistic, for research on the autistic spectrum. And as her child approaches adulthood, in the next few years, I kind of wanted to get her take on the topic, because there's not much about adults who are on the autistic spectrum. So yeah, that's the kind of the main thing we're going to be focused on today. But yeah, thank you for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ollie.
Okay, awesome. So let's just get right into it then. So for the first question, how are you preparing your child for adulthood as he approaches that age?
Yeah, it's a tough question
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, it's a spectrum for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like every child is different, every child's needs are different, and where they fall on the spectrum could vary. So there's no guidebook. Honestly, I wish there was a pamphlet or some guidebook that could really help us as parents kind of navigating this. And I think it's a big question mark for me on how to really best prepare him for adulthood, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think things in my mind really focus on um, there's a lot of factors, right? One really is making sure he's able to be independent
Mm-hmm.
in the ways that it matters, so he can live a self-sufficient, independent life, not um, being dependent on anybody. That's
Mm-hmm.
extremely important, right? And that's like includes financial, so being able to get a job, sustain a job, and being able to provide for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's key, but it's difficult because there's definitely challenges with academic, with socials, with a lot of factors that go into it. And then I think it also is like recognizing and reconciling in my mind, on my husband's mind as well, that the path that he will have is not what we had initially thought would be when, he was born and we
Mm-hmm.
were raising him for the first couple of years. Now, as he approaches, age 17, where most typical kids would be studying for their SAT or looking for colleges,
Mm-hmm.
we're still focusing on other aspects for him. And, that's fine. But it's like, what does success mean for him? And I think that's what's important. So for him, it's really being able to be, for now, and this will probably evolve over time, but really just trying to make sure that he has the social understanding to be able to understand the social cues, the social nuances, being able to connect with people in a social capacity in the correct manner. World's a difficult place.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to understand, get skills, so he is able to get, whether, it's a job and whatever it may be, um, and get him those skills and work with him to develop those. So those are kind of two of the things that we're really working on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And just very transparently, it is a struggle because, again, it's not a clear pathway forward, but I feel for me, I know what his strengths are. So it's trying to also understand, like, where does he excel in? Like, what can we nurture and try to make a little bit, bring out more of it from him? Like, he likes to write. How can we use that as a jumping stone to be able to maybe do that as he grows older, and maybe that can be something as a career pathway for him.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not 100%
Yeah.
something we know for sure. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. Got you. Got you. So what support, or kind of as the things you're talking about, what support or resources do you think are crucial for a smooth transition into adulthood or young adulthood for neurodiverse individuals, and how available are these resources?
Um, yeah, so I think there's just honestly, I don't think there's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there is,
Yeah.
but I think it's how it's socialized and how aware people are of it is what the challenge is. Some folks are much more into advocacy,
Yeah.
so they're big advocates in the community, so they know more, they have the connections,
Mm-hmm.
so they may be aware more. But as for myself and for my husband, we're not, we also, the internet is a worldwide web of so much information. You don't know what's out there. Plus, it's like state by state, there's a lot of differences and nuances as well. I think the other factor is that for my son, we pulled him out of school and now he homeschools. So we also don't have the support of like the special education department in the school
Mm-hmm.
that we could leverage to find out a little bit more information. And I'm thinking there's a lot of parents that might be in similar situations. So I do wish there was more research, more resources available, knowledge available on what sort of support there is for kids that are transitioning into out of like the public school system, going into, the next phase,
Mm-hmm.
whether that is vocational training or that's a day program or it may be something else. But, it's not allowed out there. And I follow a lady online on Facebook. She kind of talks about her son's journey with autism, and now he's in a college program, and it's really inspiring. But I think from the limited I know, just by her Facebook live streams, she spoke about how limited there are kind of inclusive universities that kind of would be able to accommodate kids that are on the spectrum. Again, it's a spectrum, so
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
wide range. So I can't say for everybody, but like maybe kids that are a little bit more on the higher end of the spectrum, it's hard. It's a challenge. It's also, I think as a parent, not saying there aren't, but it's also a parent navigating that, understanding how to navigate it, where to go, who to go to, whether, you want to even tap into your local government to be able to find out more information, which I believe she was able to do that in the state that she lived in, and that kind of helped her. But it's difficult if you don't have those connections, or even know where to go. So I think to answer your question, it is a challenge, I think, for parents when, that are kind of moving into the next stage, go phasing out of school system. Where do you go next,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough. That's
Yeah.
it's a tough journey because you don't know anything else other than the public school environment.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, well, where does this leave you and your kid? They still need support, but what's out there for a soon to be young adult, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think there's a need for more socialization of this, easier access of information to help parents to navigate,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and current information that's not outdated.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
For sure. For sure. That makes a lot of sense. Um, so I know you talked a little bit about like vocational training and kind of preparing for like a career in the future. So, are there like any vocational programs or internship type things that you found helpful, or do you wish they were more available, or anything like that?
Yeah, so we live in Dallas, and I think, it's fortunate because it's a big metropolitan area. There is, good programs out there. So we looked into vocational programs that would be for special needs kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kids maybe that need a little bit more support. Back in the day when I was growing up, I know like out of high school, there were many of my peers that went into vocational school, and that was just in my mind was like, okay, the norm, vocational programs that they were interested in. But I think that terminology shifted a lot in
Mm-hmm.
20 odd years, right? Vocational could mean something different now
Yeah.
with so much out there that's just with the internet and the new capabilities with AI and the needs and like just online work, right? Vocational can mean different
Mm-hmm.
than what it was back 25 years ago when I was in high school phasing out and people were going into vocational programs.
Yeah.
So I looked into programs here in Dallas and, vocational for special needs. And in my mind, it was more so like, okay, how do I get him into a program that will be able to, build his, give him some skill set that he could build upon and be able to get into a, maybe a career in that sort of thing. And, there are a fair amount, which is very positive. I think they're good. Something that we're looking into and I think it also is like based off of what my needs are, like what I feel his needs are, like
Mm-hmm.
what our hope is for him as a family, where we want him to go. And I think there's no one size fits all, like every person's needs are different. So while there's programs that I think are great to have, and people have put a lot of effort in designing these programs, and they seemed wonderful. We went and visited a couple. I don't think that they might be the best fit for him
Mm-hmm.
and what I felt he needed and where I think his capabilities are as he kind of grows older. But again, I could be wrong, it might be a couple years down the line. I go on a revisit and I say, hey, this is, I was wrong because I think as a parent, we're learning and growing. And I don't know, I'm the first to admit that I don't know anything about this. It's just
Yeah.
we're learning, and, um, another program we're kind of doing with him right now is through the Mosin program
Mm-hmm.
here in Dallas. They started a Dallas chapter. They're based out of Chicago. And I think you're familiar with them as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
but they're pretty amazing. Really, really amazing program. And they have a day program that they started. It is for actually young adults, but they just started it in Dallas this past like several months back. And we got Asin into it, although he was a little bit on the younger age. And while they're not vocational training per se, they do teach how they're kind of growing and they're building their services. So
Mm-hmm.
that will be maybe down the road, but I think they are interspersing in their curriculum opportunities for him to be able to learn new skills and grow on those. And I think that's an amazing thing. There's
Yeah.
volunteer opportunities, and it's all in a safe, judgment-free zone where he's able to learn from it with peers and with people that know that will support him and guide
Mm-hmm.
him, which is really, really great. And so we've been really blessed with that as something that has been something he's now doing a few times a week. And uh, yeah, so but I think also just going back to the vocational aspect, I think one of the things that we're really trying to do for him is trying to see how we could make use of this new like ways that we're living in with AI, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like everything out there is on like the computer now.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we used to think vocational was is, maybe learning a skill that you can go out in the workforce and work in person might not be needed. And that might be something that kids that are challenged with some social aspects, right? They can benefit from it, right? Like if you work in a room and a computer and you can get like really, really, you can start excelling in that sort of like niche thing, working on a computer. You don't have to maybe interact so much with clients or customers, but you can get the work done,
Mm-hmm.
then that might be great.
Yeah.
So how to like teach them those skills little by little. So maybe he even could do freelance stuff through Upwork or Fiverr or things like that. So he can get an income and kind of building off of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really trying to see what fits him and his abilities, and his what he likes as well, right? So we're letting him guide us, but I'm also trying to introduce him to like things like Photoshop, right? Or like even as basic as data entry. I mean, and um, unfortunately, AI is going to take take over a lot of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
type of
yeah.
works, but teaching him about I think like how to like work around what where we are in this world right now and try to develop those skills so he can use that as a jumping board and trying to like in parallel kind of do the social aspect, right? And working with people and collaboration and teamwork and how to kind of gel that together so he can use it to like um, hopefully try to make a career out of that and be able to be independent and self-sufficient, which is really what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. And on the same note as like careers in the future, what do you think employers should know about hiring and supporting neurodiverse individuals?
Yeah, I think anybody who's applied for jobs and knows that there is a form that needs to be filled out that you have to indicate whether you have a disability.
Yeah.
And that does kind of, there's all sorts of disabilities, but specifically for my son, where I always, think about is, autism, ADHD, those two things are on that form. So it's interesting because, you have to be truthful and you fill it out. And then I always wonder, like, whether that's in his favor or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, honestly, like, I mean, I have never had to say yes for myself, but I'm thinking in my mind, if he ever applies in the future, he'd have to check off yes. And where does that leave him?
Yeah.
So, like, I was wondering, what's the purpose of that, right? Like, do you get maybe some employers are a little bit more forthcoming, wanting to hire people that are on the spectrum, and that's great. And maybe some are wanting to not. I don't know. I know they can't discriminate based off of things, but it's just a question mark for me. Maybe it's just not lack of knowledge as to why that form is even filled out. But I
Mm-hmm.
think in the employer workspace, there's a lot of people that definitely could benefit from more education by within the companies that they work for, more acceptance of diversity, being more inclusive, understanding that people have challenges and trying to accommodate for those and give accommodations. It's really, really important. I work for a large corporation and I'm in a work stream for neurodiversity work stream.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I joined that was because, I think there's opportunity to be able to make a little bit of a difference
Yeah.
in organizations where you could spread the word a little bit more to folks that might not have maybe a close loved one or family member or friend or whoever it may be that is affected by a disability and giving them a little bit more awareness of what the disabilities could entail, what the maybe just what the ask is. Just honestly, just to be kind and have patience is the biggest thing that
Mm-hmm.
people can give. And I think that comes down from like leadership, right? In a company, leaderships are more accepting. And if they are, then that trickles down to the people that they hire, the
Yeah.
people, how they develop that culture in their workforce. And then it hopefully, folks that if you're interacting with anybody that sometimes maybe seems a little bit different, keep that in the back of your mind, and you're like, okay, it's okay if someone's a
Mm-hmm.
little impatient. It's okay if someone has a little bit of anxiety, take it with a grain of salt. And I think it comes down from like a culture of the company. So awareness in the company is super important. Acceptance of inclusivity,
Yeah.
acceptance of diversity, all diverse backgrounds, super, super important.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of work to be done,
Yeah.
but I think little steps makes a difference.
For sure. Um. So, what are your? So I know you kind of already answered this a little bit, but if you want, you can go into it a little more. What are your biggest hopes and concerns for your child's future?
Biggest hopes really is just having him be able to be um independent,
Yeah. Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And, independence is different as children age, right? When they're younger, it's like, okay, independence in different ways,
Mm-hmm.
like being able to feed themselves, go to the bathroom, go to sleep, those type of things, independence with social. And as they grow older, the dependence evolves and changes. And I think for me, it's really my hope is that he's able to independently live in this society that people accept him for how he is, and that he is, I hate to use the word a burden, but honestly that's a fear of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a burden for anybody just because he's a little different,
Mm-hmm.
and that he's able to express himself, stand up for himself when needed, where needed. And I know he has a lot of siblings. And one of the things that we always talk about as a family is that, he's oldest, but he has three younger siblings. And, that the love between siblings is important. Wouldn't expect any of the siblings to take care of him unless they choose to. But if there's love, then there's care, and they would want the best for him.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest fear for him is that we're not going to be around forever as
Yeah.
parents,
Yeah.
and he is dependent on us, for our approval for everything, really. And fear is that over time that it as any parent is, right? Like okay, any parent with a child with disability probably could understand what I'm saying is like, okay, what will happen to this my child after I'm gone, even if he's when he's an adult.
Right.
And I think that kind of goes back to like if he's independent, self-sufficient, then you would hope that that fear gets abated.
Mm-hmm.
um and it's a little bit more acute of a fear for a parent with a child with disability, even though all parents probably fear that, really. Once I'm gone, what's going to happen to my, kid? You would think that because they're typical for the most part, they'd
Mm-hmm.
have a job, have a career, or have a spouse, have family, whatever it may be, live their life, and but with someone that has disabilities, you feel the fear is more acute,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A little bit more tangible, and that's there. It's always there, but it is what it is. And I think as my role as a parent is really just helping guide him, teach him, so he's able to be successful, really.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And in order to like hopefully have society that's completely inclusive and aware of disabilities, what message would you like to share with advocates or policymakers, to improve care for neurodiverse individuals, or not necessarily even policymakers, just in general?
Improve care for neurodiverse. Um, yeah, I feel like, and I guess, well, I'll give my answer based off of where I'm at right now
Mm-hmm.
with a child that's about to be 17 and about to phase out of, the school age.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess my ask would be to be able to provide more opportunities for kids that are different.
Yeah.
More opportunities, more inclusion, give them the ability to go to maybe attend a university, even a community college with maybe some accommodations, give a little bit more, let there be more support um, for parents navigating that aspect. So they're even aware of where to go for the support. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm sure there's support out there, but how to even navigate that, where to even go, um, and be able to, when we reach out, have like a follow-up.
Yeah.
I've sent out communications to the state, got no return reply,
Mm-hmm.
and life happens. It's hard to follow up regularly, but it's really just trying to figure out the path forward, how to give more opportunities for our kids
Mm-hmm.
that that may not fit the norm, right? A little bit outside of the box. They're a little different, but give them opportunities to see how they can grow and excel and be included in the society in ways where, if they are given opportunities. I'm using college as an example. If they're given an opportunity to be in that space, even in a capacity of like not getting credit for it, right? But at least they
Yeah.
get like sit in and listen to class, the classes, be able to like learn, take that back and then try to see if they can develop skills. And that opens their mind and eyes for things and is a jumping stone for next, right? So, to be honest with you, that might be something that's already available. And maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
just really lack of knowledge on my end of maybe I'm not aware that that's something available. And I think that just goes
Right.
back to
Yeah.
my biggest thing of not having a lot of resources or
Yeah.
information out there
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
know, right? So that's kind of my one thought
Yeah.
among a lot of thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That totally makes complete sense. Hopefully one day. One day. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing this. I know this can be kind of a heartfelt topic, but I really appreciate you sharing a bit of your expertise with us.
Oh, no expertise at all. I know nothing. Like I said, it's just as a mom, you're trying to, get through this together. So I appreciate it. Hopefully, this helps somebody else. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but
Uh-huh.
I I'm happy to share. So thanks, Ollie, for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank
All
you everyone
right.
for watching.